Welcome to this explainer. Today we're pulling back the curtain on something totally fascinating, one of the most powerful yet largely invisible forces driving India's massive consumer electronics boom. We're talking about Dixon Technologies. If you live in India, or honestly, even if you just follow global supply chains, you've almost certainly interacted with their work today without even realizing it. We're going to break down their incredible growth, their surprisingly razor-thin margins, and some recent global headwinds they've had to navigate, all using the exact data that financial analysts rely on.
Okay, let's dive right in. Seriously, take a quick glance at your smartphone, or maybe the monitor you're watching this on right now. It's got a big, recognizable brand logo slapped right on the back, right? But here's the wild secret of the modern electronics industry. The company whose name is on the box, they very rarely own the factory that actually built the device. Instead, they rely on a wizard behind the curtain, a contract manufacturer. And in India, that wizard is very often Dixon Technologies.
Dixon is literally the hidden manufacturing muscle for a massive lineup of fiercely competitive global titans. In the mobile and IT space, they're assembling devices for Samsung, Xiaomi, and Motorola. Over in home appliances, they're building washing machines for Bosch and Godrej. They're churning out televisions for Panasonic and Hisense, and lighting solutions for Signify and Philips. It's wild to think about, but competitors sitting right next to each other on the retail shelf are actually sharing the exact same assembly lines inside Dixon's factories. It's a brilliant business model that positions them right at the absolute center of the consumer tech ecosystem.
Section 1. Explosive growth in PLI power.
The financial trajectory this company has experienced over the past few years is nothing short of explosive. 59%. That is Dixon's compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, for their sales over the past 3 years alone. To put that staggering percentage into hard numbers, in the financial year ending March 2026, their sales topped 48,800 crore rupees. That is sheer, unadulterated momentum. They aren't just growing, they are scaling at a breakneck pace that most traditional manufacturing companies can literally only dream of.
Now, what's really interesting here is their return on capital employed, or ROCE, which hit roughly 51% in FY25 and the first half of FY26. For a heavy, capital-intensive manufacturing business, an ROCE above 20% is usually considered fantastic. Hitting 51%? That means Dixon is ridiculously efficient at squeezing profits out of the capital invested in its factories and equipment. They are a well-oiled machine in every sense of the word.
So, what's the jet fuel powering all this growth? Well, a huge part of it is the Indian government's Make in India Production-Linked Incentive, or PLI schemes. Dixon has actually been approved for 5 different segments under this program. They are quite literally being financially incentivized by the government to scale up domestic manufacturing in mobile phones, telecom equipment, IT hardware, lighting, and AC components. It's this perfect storm-like alignment of corporate strategy and national economic policy.
Section 2. Dissecting the revenue pie. But, not all product categories are created equal, and the numbers brilliantly illustrate that point. When we dissect exactly where Dixon's massive FY26 revenue is coming from, a whopping 90% is driven by the Mobile and Electronic Manufacturing Services division. Consumer electronics, home appliances, and lighting, they make up just a tiny sliver of the pie combined. So while they're diversified in theory, in practice, Dixon's entire financial engine is overwhelmingly reliant on the global smartphone boom.
Now, to support that kind of massive volume, you obviously need a colossal physical footprint. Dixon currently operates 30 manufacturing facilities spread all across India. We're talking Dehradun to Chennai, Noida down to Tirupati, and over to Gujarat. But they aren't just sitting back doing basic assembly work. The reports show they're aggressively expanding into much more complex, higher-value components. They're moving into advanced camera modules, solid-state drives for IT, and even advanced consumer products like robotic vacuum cleaners and dishwashers. They are constantly climbing that technology ladder.
Section 3. Razor-thin margins and risks.
So, the crucial point we need to talk about is that the economics of the electronic manufacturing services industry are notoriously tricky. It is definitely not an easy business. Picture this. You've got this incredible, massive scale, nearly 49,000 crore rupees in sales, but an operating profit margin that sits practically flat at just roughly 4%. This is a high-volume, razor-thin margin game. They have almost zero pricing flexibility with these giant global clients. They literally have to manufacture millions of units flawlessly just to scrape out that 4% operating profit.
Which brings us to what we might call the EMS paradox. Seriously, how do you run a business that requires importing billions of dollars in raw materials when your margins are stuck at 4%?
Well, the answer is some pretty brilliant financial engineering. As the credit reports highlight, Dixon manages its intensive working capital largely through supplier credit and these back-to-back payment arrangements. In simple terms, this means they structure their deals so they only pay their component suppliers when they actually get paid by their big clients, like Xiaomi or Motorola. It beautifully insulates them from major cash flow crunches.
Section 4. The Q4 speed bump.
But, even the absolute best financial engineering can't protect you from everything. If we pause the pure growth narrative for just a second, we see that for the quarter ended March 2026, Dixon hit a real speed bump. While their overall sales actually managed to tick up a tiny bit by 2%, their net profit took a dramatic 36% year-over-year nosedive, falling down to 298 crore rupees. And a company that's so used to posting massive double-digit profit growth, a 36% drop is a really loud alarm bell.
So what exactly caused this sudden drop? Well, according to their earnings call, it was basically a perfect storm of macroeconomic factors. We're talking rapidly rising tensions in the Middle East, along with fears of a potential US-Iran escalation, which severely disrupted global supply chains. Freight costs just skyrocketed. At the exact same time, consumer demand softened, leading major brands to rationalize or cut back on their inventory. When your business is 90% mobile and IT manufacturing, a global supply chain shock like that hits your bottom line directly.
Just listen to this direct quote from Dixon's management during that earnings call. Quote, "Starting March 26th, the global macroeconomic landscape has undergone a dramatic transformation, leading to disruption across supply chains, freight, energy, forex, and commodity prices." Unquote. It's a really stark reminder that even a heavily protected domestic manufacturing giant is still deeply tethered to the volatile realities of global geopolitics.
Section 5. The verdict. Credit rating.
All right, so how do the major credit rating agencies view Dixon amidst all of this? The razor-thin margins, the Q4 bumps? The answer is they actually remain highly confident. The rating agency ICRA recently reaffirmed Dixon's credit rating at AA stable for long-term and A1+ for short-term. In the financial world, that means Dixon is considered highly secure and stable, carrying very low credit risk. Even with all the global supply chain chaos, the institutional money believes Dixon's foundation is rock solid.
And here's exactly why ICRA feels that way. Simply put, Dixon manages its debt expertly. Their leverage ratio, which is basically how much they owe compared to what they own, stands at a super lean 1.0 times. Their interest coverage ratio is over 9 times, meaning their earnings can easily cover their interest payments 9 times over. Plus, they maintain a very healthy liquidity buffer of around 600 crore rupees in cold, hard cash. They run a remarkably tight and disciplined ship.
Which leaves us with this final, really critical question. Dixon has absolutely conquered the Indian domestic manufacturing space, expertly riding the wave of government incentives. But as global tech titans actively push for a China Plus One strategy, desperately seeking alternative manufacturing hubs outside of China, can Dixon actually capture that massive global export market? They certainly have the scale, but managing intense global supply chain shocks on a 4% margin is going to be their ultimate test. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on the wizard behind the curtain.